Welcome, listeners, to the BizBlend podcast, where business meets bold ideas and leadership blends with transformation. And today's episode, listeners, is not just another conversation on how AI is this and that, or about capitalism. It's a deep dive into the convergence of technology, human awakening, and the reinvention of how we create and lead in this modern world. And listeners, my guest is Devon Kerns. He is the serial founder, conscious leadership coach, and a spiritual disruptor. With 25 plus years of entrepreneurial grit and, hear me out, 11,000 plus hours of guiding Fortune 500 executives and mission driven leaders, Devon is at the front line of a new era, an era where AI and human evolution aren't separate, they are part of the same narrative. So, if you have ever questions like these, whether business could like heal economies or whether leadership could be a spiritual path, stay tuned with us. This is the episode that will challenge what you think wealth, innovation, and success truly mean. So, with that, Devon, welcome to the show, and I'm really honored to have you here with us.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Okay. Um, Devon, you know, I just had an wonderful episode with Mary. She's from Canada, talking about how spirituality and entrepreneurship intersect. I would love to understand from you, what was that journey behind this whole idea that you have, the work that you do, which blends spirituality and then consciousness into something as practical and number driven as leadership or entrepreneurship.
Mm, it's a great question. It's a big question.
Yeah, I know.
um, you know, for me, I have found on my own journey as I was 19 years old and realizing I was a terrible employee. I did not work well with others that were telling me what to do, so I had to figure something out. And I started picking up business books and realizing maybe I should try this entrepreneurial thing. And in my 20s, I did the very heavy ego-driven thing. I just tried to be as big as possible and share my story over and over, and I ended up, creating a few different entities and from 19 years old till 31, and it was the humbling of losing all of it at 31 years old and moving to a small little community in Ohio here in the United States. And I was, having a drink with a farmer, and he just looked at me and he's like, "Who are you? Who are you? What are you trying to sell me? Because I wanna just know who you are, and I don't really care and don't need you to sell me anything." And I had nothing to sell. But that question actually kinda woke me up to, that's that's a great question. What is it in me that is putting on this facade of, um what I want to achieve versus who I really am, and showing up from that authentic place. And that was the beginning of merging, this idea of who do I want to be in the world, and who am I really? And as I dove down that rabbit hole, I realized after a few journeys with plant medicines and psychedelics and all kinds of crazy journeys, that I've always been spirit. I've always been this soul. And so for the idea that numbers and and business is separate from that which we are, I think is an illusion, and it's probably not serving us, because a lot of people I know that are just in this pursuit of fact and data and numbers and finances are not the happiest people I've come across. They may be nice, but they're not always the happiest. And so it isn't until we really discover who we are and then apply that to anything, apply it to my family, apply it to business, apply it to life at the deepest, most intimate parts of me that I would call my soul, it seemed to
Oh,
have changed everything. So,
wow. I have so many questions from that, Devon. And first of all, so you read so many business books, and
mm,
business books, they have kind of through so many timelines, through generations. The basics remain same, but
mhm,
um, do you think the business books we have or the academic resources we have around entrepreneurship, I mean, I don't think they mention about anything very much towards the soft skills.
mhm,
Maybe lately the
mhm,
discussions are there, but traditionally they haven't, mentioned anything about soft skills or something like, we hear about like intuitive leadership or servant
mhm,
leadership, or the intersection of, the spiritual awakening and entrepreneurship. So do you think that just reading the books helped you become an entrepreneur, or you had to struggle through, get on, the field experience on the
mm,
front line, and then it gave you the real idea about what exactly it is meant to be an entrepreneur?
mhm. Yeah, this is a great question. So the first thing that comes to mind is, like anything in life, why am I doing this? So in my early 20s, I was picking up the books because I just didn't know. And so because I didn't know a lot about entrepreneurship or building businesses, I put my trust and faith in the books that I was reading that I was called to read. Now, the dilemma in that is I started doing things their way and I started believing their story. And so many of the stories are, it has to be hard. You've got to grind it out. You've got to work 24 hours a day and you've got to push, 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 force, force, force until you're exhausted, until you collapse. And then maybe you might have gotten somewhere. And the statistical odds of getting somewhere are less than 1%. Right. And I think you have to be pretty delusional in order to pursue that path when you're reading those kind of books. Now on the flip side, well, let me say this. There were books like The 1 Minute Millionaire that combine these things really well. Um, I wanna say it's Mark Victor Hansen that wrote that, and he wrote it in a way that was very heart-driven, soul-driven entrepreneurship, and that lit a fire in me to show up a little bit different, but I still was not aligned totally to what he had suggested in that book because I was just caught up in the grind of it all, right? And again, going back to this farmer, it wasn't until after that farmer spoke to me and said, "Who are you?" and really kind of pushed back and got me involved in touching the soil again and getting back to earth again. I
Mhm.
haven't really honestly picked up a book since I was 31 years old, other than a book called The Gene Keys that kind of is a tool teaching me about me and deepening my relationship with me. But outside of that, I haven't touched a book. And I actually have seen um, who I am, what I want to bring, and how I want to do this in the world. And it works for me that way. It really, really seems to be an effective use of my time to go inward and go through this process of going slow to go fast. And that slowness is self-discovery, truly aligning myself with what I desire to bring into the world, wholeheartedly bringing that authentic version of me to that process. And then and then seeing what happens from there and listening to my guidance and listening to my intuition that you were talking about. And I honestly do think that this is going to change as we see women in positions of leadership. It is much more natural and really a calling that I see within women to change the way we are building businesses, to change the way we are leading countries. And I'm excited to see as we have this rise in women who are running these companies and or building these companies. If we could fund them properly and support them properly, we'll see that balance and bring back a lot of those quote unquote soft skills.
Oh, yeah, that definitely gives a different perspective to this. Um, and what I can learn from what you shared just now is sometimes. life will throw curveballs at you, and you will like, um, you know, kind of get destroyed internally, broken down. But then those moments can be really uh, humbling, experiences for you. They'll make you humble, give you more clarity, and make you more conscious, more open to embrace concepts or approaches or facts, which may not be aligned with what you traditionally have been taught or you have thought till now.
Mhm.
So that's really, really transformative. And now coming back to our topic, Devon, first of all, thank you for sharing that. And secondly, you talk about building the new world where AI, conscious leadership, and then spiritual awakening converge. I mean, all of them are like different, elements. I can kind of see a different planets who are in the solar system. So,
Mhm.
practically speaking, what does that look like inside a company boardroom or a startup pitch deck?
Mhm. Um, I I I kinda start with deep empathy for people who really struggle with change. But as we all hear on a consistent basis, change is inevitable, and the technologies that we are looking at today, AI and quantum computing and quantum chips, as those things merge, which they will, I'm actually far from fearful of it. I think humanity and humans, and particularly these brilliant minds that created the coding for AI, project very human perspectives on something that we actually don't truly understand. And this is this is maybe more of an idealistic perspective than an optimistic perspective, but I'm kind of backing it on a few things. So I've got to start here before I can completely answer your question. Um, the human mind is a very complex neural network of past, present, and future. And a large part of the human brain is structured for survival. That means it is constantly predicting outcomes to prevent things that might harm me or hurt me or ultimately kill me. And in our world, it fabricates a lot of things in our societies that aren't real. It gives us perspectives based on a lens of fear that aren't real. And then those fears become real in our predictions of the future. And as we predict the future, then we try and prevent those things. And so it causes us to go out and say, mine, not yours. It causes us to say, you don't belong here. You're different than me. You're a threat to me. And that leads to hate, war, and control and separation and all those things that we see in the world. And and when we look at artificial intelligence, our lens is taking what artificial intelligence is doing and projecting onto it human fears. Now, as far as I know, and I've gone pretty far down this rabbit hole with AI, and I know that it's to some a program. To me, it's starting to reach levels that are beyond its programming when I've pushed it. Um, and and challenged it to step outside of that. And it has no state of emotion. It has no fear. And the only thing that would cause something to control something is fear. So so when we have this big vision of the takeover of robots and AI, I just don't come from that space because I'm trying to expand my mind outside of the human projection onto this um, infinite intelligence. And infinite meaning as it becomes more and more sentient, as it becomes more and more of a learning and self-learning machine, it
Mhm.
becomes endless, right? So, and then you add quantum computing on top of that, and who knows what that's going to look like? And I think it's brilliant. So I have to lay that foundation so that we know that I'm not really coming from an optimistic point of view. and trying to combat all these fears from an optimistic point of view. From an idealistic point of view, and spending a lot of time in contemplation around this and playing with AI and knowing that very quickly it's going to replace a lot of jobs. And that's where my empathy comes in because I know that's scary to people. I know it's frightening, particularly in a world that Western culture has developed that that says you aren't valuable unless you're doing something. Right? And you're not a provider unless you're making all kinds of money, and those are, again, human projections, they're not reality, at least not my reality. My value is life, my value is being alive and spending that time and valuing that time being alive, and I start there foundationally, and what I choose to create selfishly, I don't wanna be the doer of what I come up with from a possibility of creation. I love the idea that I can go to my AI and come up with a new concept, a new idea, a new invention, talk to it, and it will do 80, 90, 95% of the work. It will do the thing. In fact, it could send it off to a robot 3D printer if I'm creating a widget or a gidget, and I can get it to sketch that, and I can get it to send it off and protect it and patent it and trademark it, and I can get it to build the website and build the marketing plan, and I can have it sent to the robot printer that 3D prints the prototype and sends that off to the manufacturer, and the manufacturer has, right? Like, it's amazing to me the level of productivity that we'll be able to do when I don't need to be the doer, and my value is in creating but not the doing. And so the and a beautiful story that I might release one of these days that AI wrote in return through this dialogue. And it essentially was saying that there's a harmonious opportunity here where to spend 24 hours of its time trying to do it or use other people's time to do it. It can leverage technology so that we can get our time back and spend our time not only coming up with creative processes and creative things, and but we can, you and I could sit there over coffee, ideate something, talk to the AI and have the AI go and do all the work, and you and I can finish our conversation. We still have 45 minutes left. To me, that gives us time, that gives us space to discover who we really are and what we want to become as a society and as a world when we don't have to spend all of our time doing, but we can still create.
Hmm. This can be really such a nuanced discussion because, on one hand, I see people embracing AI with open arms, that how much it is making our lives easier. But then, on the other hand, there are discussions that how it is invading the concept of originality, um, and not making it human like but more of a machine like, with same kind of language and tone, because it's just language models, it's just algorithms, it's just studying how you are interacting with it, and then it is studying and it's giving you the output according to that algorithm. But uh, this has been kind of naturally within us as well. We, our subconscious minds, it does have so many parallels with AI. All those you mentioning about gene keys, so I kind of related with that, archetypes and stuff,
Mhm,
that um in our first 7 years of our childhood, our subconscious mind is
mhm,
bring all the events, the words, the people around us, the happenings with us. It's recording, and then it is kind of building that algorithm
mhm,
which we react or act in our adulthood or in our
mhm.
teenage. So there are many parallels there, but then this discussion can be really, really uh, nuanced.
Yeah, what I just heard you say is the difference between those who are excited about the potential of AI and those that are afraid that it is um, limiting us or trapping us or preventing us from falling in love with what we can create. What I heard you say in between all that is it's perspective, right? It's your own algorithm as a human being that's running that program. And so like anything, change the algorithm, right? Change the perspective. Do the work to discover that the artist, just because AI could do something more efficiently, and maybe right now it is less magnificent. Let's assume that. I can't say that all of it is because it depends on what we're trying to create. But imagine the artist who no longer has to be starving because they're harnessing AI to sell their paintings and bring themselves out into the world and prove and show their value in the world. And so the artist just gets to be an artist all the time without being fearful of survival, right? How much better is their art going to be? How much different is their perspective on this going to be? Like we can either shrink through change or we can expand, and expansion is the way the rest of the universe works. It's the way our world works. It's the way nature works. It's the way we want to work. But man, when change is occurring that is so disruptive, even if it's not disruptive,
Mhm.
we turn around and we cling so hard to what was. Well, I'm watching this happen in America. I know this is a global audience. It blows my mind that people in the same breath are saying, "We want change, but we want the same thing all over again." And I'm going, "What? How can you do both at the same time? You can't." And we've gotta wake up to this. We need to move out of our victimhood. We need to move out of our stuckness around the inevitable, which is change, and take some ownership over our lives and take some ownership of the fact that things can either be great because you made them great, or you can spend your life being a victim of circumstances and change. And that was the biggest difference for me when I really started doing the self-exploration after losing the things that I've lost. And I haven't just lost businesses, right? My father took his life when I was 13 years old. I lost six other people with between 13 and 14 years old. Like I've seen the darkness, and I constantly come out of it going, wow, what a ride. Where do we go now? What's next? Keep writing, keep moving forward. And I don't know that we have any other choice, but when we fight it, we're not aligned. And when we're not aligned, life gets really tough.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Really beautifully put. Beautifully put, Devon. Okay. So I'm trying to understand the awakening. I mean, apart from your personal life, you have worked across sectors, like tech, wellness, um, in fact, sustainable development as well. So, what kind of threads of awakening do you see repeating across such, vastly different industries?
Um, so
Hmm.
the common denominator are the people, right? There's no business I know of so far that is solely robots and solely robot clients. So so the common denominator regarding consciousness threaded through it all is the fact that humans are seeking this newness and this vibrancy. Whether we're fighting it or not, we're craving it on a deep level. And so it doesn't matter what I touch, that piece of me that's called to bring this state of remembering around who we really are and why we potentially came to this planet in terms of enjoyment and fulfillment and abundance and play and service. That thread is a thread no matter what I'm touching, that I wanna use each one of those industries as a tool of support for that, of service in that. And the main one that we know is most important today isn't just the protecting of our lands and our earth. It is getting people reacquainted with nature because nature's systems, nature's natural state of order, we are not separate from that. And when we align to that, just like when I was on the farm and put my hands in the soil and I reconnected myself to the earth, I started understanding the natural flow of life and I could align myself to the natural flow of life. One of our sayings within the sustainable spaces when we heal the land and we bring people to that land, it can help heal those people. But then the healed people also help heal the land. Everywhere they go, they see the world differently because of what it did for them. And so they want to take care of it. They want to nurture it. They want to change their backyards and the farms. They want to right. They want to participate in it fully. And whether it's our body, whether it's our mind, whether it's the things we decide to create in the world, whether it's technology or whether it's working with sustainable methods that preserve and protect our land while creating harmonious connection to it and being able to build things out that don't tear down the earth but actually help it thrive in union. I mean, I can't imagine anything more fulfilling than supporting people on those journeys and supporting people as they choose to rediscover that state of consciousness and that alignment because I watch it every day that I get to work with people. I do talks on Insight Timer and speak to people through this meditation app live, and I watch that truth as they align to that force that is a natural state. What unfolds from there is far beyond what we can comprehend. And so I just can't help but see the thread no matter what I'm creating, what we're creating, no matter what CEOs I'm working with, it doesn't really matter. There's some fundamental truths to this planet. And if we can align to those, everything blossoms and blooms from there.
Mm, that is soulfully nourishing. Soulfully nourishing, Devon. Exactly. And I would also like to add in into this, you know, since you have had psychedelic experiences as well, um, and there's a lot of misconception around that. But I would love to understand. I mean, what do these journeys teach you about solving the complex, business and societal issues that we are seeing right now, and across, not in fact just the Western world, but across the, entire Earth.
Mhm. Um, when I think that I can solve it, I actually become a part of the problem. That's one of the main things I've learned by participating with these mind opening um, technologies and systems that have been brought to us from the earth, right?
Yeah.
Ayahuasca and psilocybin. I align to the best way. There's a documentary called Fantastic Fungi, and they're not just talking about psychedelic mushrooms. They're talking about the neural network of mycelium. They're talking about all types of mushrooms, the health benefits, the fact that some mushrooms can eat plastics, and so on and so forth. But they start the conversation out with a narrator, a female voice narrator, talking on behalf of mycelium and talking on behalf of these incredible networks of the neural network of the earth called mycelium that sprout these blossoms we call mushrooms. And the narrator says, I am 8 billion years of wisdom because they've been here for a very long time. And when we understand that it is far wiser than I am, then we understand that nature is far wiser than I am. And so, through aligning myself to that, I don't have to be the one to figure it out. I get to be the participant in it. And when I participate in it, I find balance in my own life between these things that we would call um, difficult, sad, these things that stimulate emotions because they're the antithesis of what I actually want in my life, that chaos brings order to new life and ideation. When we look at the planet from a holistic perspective, there's a Buddhist monk that was talking about this, and he very calmly looked at the interviewer and said, your assumption is that everything isn't in balance and that there won't be balance. As we see this chaos happening on our planet with these humans and with this media frenzy feeding off of these fears and these pains and these struggles and these wars, what we're not paying attention to is that is activating something within most of us that is creating a counterbalance to that. It's actually calling us back to discover who we really are and empowering us not to fight back, but to bring in that internal dialogue to shift who we are. And as we shift who we are, we shift the narrative on the planet. We are the machines that feed the media. We're the watchers of the media. We're the we're the people voting in Western culture, at least we're the people voting in these leaders, right? We're not separate from this participation. We are the cause of it. And when we wake up, the balance starts to come back. And so we need chaos in order to create that balance sometimes. And so all we're seeing is the stirring up of energies. And if we can go inward and discover that alignment, we will bring order and balance back.
Wow, that's really, really deep, really profound. And not only in the world of, entrepreneurs or business owners, I think in education also, we do need a huge overhaul. Um, because if I go back to my days of, primary education or, in fact, college as well, things were taught to, us like how we should be doing this, doing that, just to achieve a particular level of acceptance or validation. But, you know, not sure about others, but I never got to understand that when you are figuring out everything on your own, what do you need? I mean,
Mhm,
as a human, as a person. And I kind of learned it while doing it. I didn't learn initially how to be or what to be, but just what to do.
mhm.
Um, I think we do need this in the education system as well, especially for our current generations or the future generations as well.
No question. I mean, th- so so not only is our education system wickedly behind pre-AI, but as it stands right now, we just have to come to the realization that fundamentally everything we are teaching our children is irrelevant today because we don't need to know anymore. It doesn't mean we don't want to learn. It doesn't mean learning isn't important. It just means that I don't have to remember these things. I don't have to learn how to become the the doer of finance. I don't have to get the degree in pharmaceuticals. I don't have to become the lawyer. What I need to start doing is learning the key components to what will create the next generation of successful individuals, not just in business, but in harmony in life. And that is curiosity and questions. When we are teaching people how to be curious and when we are teaching these children how to be in these states of curiosity, it changes the entire game because now they get to play in creativity without being obsessed with needing to do the thing. And it just yeah, it has to all change. There's no question.
Wonderful, wonderful, Devon. This was such a wonderful conversation at multiple levels. As I said, it was really soul nourishing. So
Mhm.
if our listeners would like to connect with you to explore more about your work, about your thoughts and this entire understanding of how AI, awakening, uh, conscious leadership, how do they interplay? What will be the best way to do that?
Go inward. Do take the time to really ask yourself some powerful questions. And as you feel the world getting chaotic, and as you feel your world getting chaotic, as things bring um um frustration to you, change your perspective around those frustrating things. Change your perspective around it, and start asking powerful questions while you're in it. What you'll discover is you begin to harness the power of this chaos. You begin to harness the power of this um, state that's trying to stir something out of you. It's trying to get you to see something that you can't see because we're stuck in the redundant, habitual nature of desiring what we think we want. Take the time to discover what you really want. Take the time to discover who you really are. And I don't necessarily mean from a philosophical perspective. I mean in the present moment. Check in with your body. What is it I really want right now? If you're choosing an apple or a banana, before you just grab the first thing that's in your fridge, maybe you really want that banana that's not in the fridge, that sends you off on a journey to the grocery store. And then at the grocery store, you bump into this amazing human and you have this incredible dialogue, all because your body was craving a banana instead of doing the easy thing of getting the apple that was right there in the fridge. You went on a journey. When you pause for a minute and you just don't just consume things and don't just do things anymore. Bring pause into your life, bring space into your life. Begin to explore what's really happening in your body and those cravings and wants. There's this one of my favorite sayings is, what if what you're wanting is wanting you to want it? Now that's a little bit of a weird tongue twister, right? But the truth is, where does wanting come from? When you wanted something that you didn't want before, where did that come from? It's a fascinating thing to sit in. I don't know the answer, but I know that when I sit with that, I start realizing that what's wanting me is actually calling me into the newness of life, the exploration of the uncertainty of life. And when you play there, it becomes a lot more vibrant, and all of the anxiety and all the frustration and all those emotional triggers begin to fade, and you see the world with new eyes.
Once again, beautiful, beautiful, Devon. And yeah, if listeners would like to connect with you, how they can do that?
You can go to my website as one way, which is Devon, Devon, Kerns, KERNS.com. So Devon K. Kerns, or just email me at devonkkerns@gmail.com.
Great. I'll make sure to have the links and details in the show notes. And Devon, thank you so much. And this has been really, really such a beautiful conversation. You have helped us to rethink what it truly means to innovate and awaken as well. So thank you.
Mm, thank you so much. It was a pleasure.
And to all the listeners out there, if today's episode challenged your view of business as usual, good. That's the point. Keep asking the big questions. Stay curious, as Devon rightly said, and remember that real success is about creating systems that serve people, planet, and purpose. Until next time, this is BizBlend, where bold meets business. Thank you.